This ClearVoice MIC is all about people-first marketing. Angie Hennen, CXO from Leading Edge Credit Union, shares how her team delivers meaningful, personalized content that supports members through every step of their financial journey. We dig into how human connection drives real results, the power of financial literacy content, and why marketing and operations must work hand in hand. Let's pass the mic. Hi, Angie. I'm Taylor, Director of Content here at ClearVoice, and just welcome to our ClearVoice MIC series. It's one of our first, and MIC standing for Marketers in Conversation. And today, everyone, I'm joined by Angie Hennen. She is the Chief Experience Officer over at Leading Edge Credit Union. We're going to jump in with her, pass her the mic, and see where the conversation takes us.
Thanks for inviting me to your show.
A pleasure. You were actually one of the first persons I thought of because I thought you just bring such a unique perspective on all things marketing and experience, and coming from a large background, but also working in somewhere kind of niche too, to a certain extent for people. I won't speak too much. I'll actually pass it to you and see if introduce yourself a little bit, like who you are, what you do, and at your company right now.
Yeah, so like she said, my name's Angie Hennen, and I am the Chief Experience Officer here at Leading Edge Credit Union. So what exactly is that? Well,
Yeah.
As with anything, that's a loaded title, right? So what I oversee is I oversee anything that kind of touches our member experience here. So branch operations, we have 5 branches here, and I oversee them and ensure that we're taking care of our members the way that we want them to be taken care of, the way that I want my grandma taken care of every time she comes into the credit union, or my mom, right? Yeah. All of that. So I work really hard to get our staff to that spot so that we're kind of really believing in all the things that our credit union, and that is really about the people and the relationships that we build. In addition to that, on the other side of the table, there's my marketing team. Yeah. And so I have 2 ladies here that work with me in our marketing team, and we're challenged on that side with ensuring that we're everywhere, that people are seeing us, and that we're getting the right messaging out, and that we're talking the right talk, and like putting all the things together. So I'm really fortunate to have an incredible staff that kind of reports up to me to help be able to take care of our members the way that we want to take care of them, because it really comes on both sides of the hat there, the combination of those two to give the experience that we want to give.
Yeah, what you hit on is very interesting to me, because I think there's 2-pronged. There's when people hear experience a lot, they go very technical sometimes, very digital, and they naturally may gravitate towards like UI, UX, and that's a component to it. But experience is very broad, and you kind of hit on it. Like, what's that relationship dynamic? And regardless of where you sit in the realm, if you will, industry wise, that's a component everywhere. Can you kind of break down what experience is all encompassing, especially in what you're doing?
Yeah, so it's everything. It's the times that it really is. I mean, it's the times that you walk in the door and you're mad, and you're happy, you're sad, whatever that is. Like, that's the experience that we handle every day, right? And we just make sure that we're doing it the right way, because it takes a special set of skills to be able to handle all gamuts of that. So definitely on like the frontline staff, where my staff is working with the members on whether that's depositing cash or, working on financial goals and financial planning. It's so exciting, so rewarding to see people come in like they finally achieved a goal, right? They've been able to buy that car that they've been planning on, or we've been working with them to kind of get there. So it's really kind of all gamuts of that experience, but it's everything that touches our lives every day. Yeah. Which again makes it even way more vague than anything else, right? I look at my team, and I'm loaded with an amazing staff, and so I have a skill for that, right? I have a member for that, and they all have their areas. So we're like helping them with their financial goals in a sense, or whether we're helping them with just regular things, counting their coins, for goodness sakes, right? There's those things too, but it's all about the experience. and how you feel when you leave one of my branches. That's what I'm concerned about. Or
Yeah.
what you feel when you see an ad from us. That experience. Those are the things that that's what keeps me up at night. Not that the data doesn't do that, because I'm a data nerd at heart. I feel like that
It does that. Yes.
that's like one of those things that keeps me up too, but definitely just a combination of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you hit on a good point too of like when someone sees an ad. So there's the component of, walking in, like you have a very interesting dynamic of, it's not all online, right? People come in person. You also have an online component, but there's also marketing, right? Feeding all elements, right? Whether it be online all the way from a brand awareness perspective or it be print, to walking in the doors too, of like having the correct collateral for someone, connecting with them and having things to feed that experience too. So and you said you have I believe two individuals.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
And they
lot.
are and they're amazing. I'm very fortunate to have the team that I have on both sides, on all sides. I'm very grateful. But those girls put some stuff together, and I probably keep them up at night, sometimes worried about what's on my mind next. But they do a really good job, like just personalizing what people feel. I mean, that's a huge thing right now. Like how do I personalize this and make you feel the same things that I'm thinking about? And so we've really done some change in marketing to kind of understand that gamut and really kind of use that to our advantage, as we kind of look for differentiation, right? Because there's a lot of credit union banks out there that we have to stand out from. So
And you're absolutely right. I would say it's a good trend that's here to stay. I don't think personalization ever was not a trend, but I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's becoming even more prevalent where people are like, stop the just kind of broad blanket, things. We're going to really get nitty gritty and meet you where you are. You agree with that? What are your
yeah,
thoughts?
I definitely agree 100%. I feel like, from two aspects, right? So I like think of it for me personally. I don't want to get an ad that has nothing to do with me, because my time is valuable, just like yours or anybody else's, right? So I want stuff that actually pertains to me so that I can make better decisions, better, I can have better action plans, better all the things, right?
Mhm.
So I like that personalization. So when I talk with that with my team, I'm like, how would you feel, if this came in your mailbox? Like, what does it strike to you? Would you look at it? Right? Because constantly we're looking at that stuff too. Like, what do people look at? Right? I always go back to how I felt when I finally could afford a new car, and not
Yeah.
just afford the new car, but like I could finally like be able to finance it and have the money to actually do it because I was young, right? I had multiple jobs, always, and going to college and doing all of those things, and I went over to, one of the banks, and the time that she took with me to
Mm.
help me understand what I needed to have in the bank, how to pay that stuff, what my credit score actually meant, and
Yeah.
all of those things were so huge for me. They were huge. If she would have left the area, I'd probably hire her here, um, 10 times over, just because she was so good at taking care of me personally.
Just helpful, knowledgeable.
Yeah, helpful in all the gamuts. And I want to give that experience that I receive in everything that we do, whether it's marketing or whether it's whichever. And so we want to have a part, like a piece for that. You and I talked about at Financial Brand, we talked about like having different financial literacy pieces.
Oh
Just,
yeah.
it's huge. Like sometimes I don't want to people. I think everybody can relate to that, right? I love people. I do, but sometimes I don't want to people. So
Yeah.
at 1 a.m. in the morning, when I'm out looking for something, it's nice to find a article or something
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah.
That hits home. That's one of the things we're looking for. We're looking for those pieces to like give you something to read at night when you're thinking about, should I buy this car now or should I wait? How does that affect my home purchase or whatever that is? And so those financial literacy pieces are huge. It's just another asset that's free out there. So I want to get them out there in people's hands so they can enjoy that information as well.
100%. And as much as I love people too, sometimes I'm peopled out. And I need some good content to digest, to read. And obviously it needs to be articulated, in a way that meets me where I am too. I think I was having a conversation with someone not too long ago, and we were kind of laughing how we're not taught generally, like in school or anything, about like credit or what that is. Like you're kind of dependent on, your upbringing, maybe your household dynamics to teach you, or figure it out on your own. And we're so fortunate nowadays that there are places like your credit union, or there's so much good content out there, because I was like, what did people do prior? And I'm sure your teams encounter this all the time where, it's just people don't fully know, or they don't know where to go, and it's guiding them, if you will, along that journey, along that path.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think back to just, like I said, being a kid, we worried about balancing our checkbook and
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like those
Never
were
crossed
classes that
my
we,
mind.
yeah, but like those were classes that we have. And I can tell you that I have two daughters that will be going into college, and I can tell you neither one of them have ever written a check out to anybody, right? Because it's not something they do. Some like once in a while I've left a check where I'm like, you got to take this to the school and pay. But it was something different. This year I got the opportunity to go into a couple of schools and talk about like credit scores and like all that. And it was crazy. It was so awesome because there were so many questions about like, what does that actually mean? You mean I can't just come to the credit union and like get a loan? And that sounds so crazy, but they truly were. I mean, those were the kind of the things like, yeah, you have to have a job and you have to be able to pay for it.
It is wild. And I love how you're, first off, that's awesome. People need to do that more. I feel like go and have these conversations, especially with the younger generations. But it what you're hitting on is really interesting to me, is where I feel like sometimes marketers and sometimes we get so stuck in, everything's moved very digital, very online, which is where people are. But a lot of people forget about just the different lanes or avenues, and having conversations and having different forums, right? And that right there is just one. Us talking here is another. But it's very interesting that sometimes that's, I feel like that's a like forgotten art almost, right? Where people have kind of thought it doesn't exist anymore, and it absolutely does, because as much as you might be peopled out, you need people. you
Yeah.
you need that. We also, as humans, naturally, we need that conversation. We need that things described to us, taught to us in various ways.
Like the crazy thing is I love that. I love being in with the schools and being out when I can to do stuff like that or work on financial literacy through any platform that we're working on. Just having those conversations, because it's real. They're real things that are affecting our lives every day,
Yeah.
and it's like good to get in front of that stuff so that these kids know, but not just kids. I think at the other gamut too. We've gone into different groups where we're talking about fraud and we're talking about elderly abuse and all that kind of stuff. But getting in front of it because you don't know what you don't know. You know,
Yeah.
so we definitely try to get ahead of that, and that is a huge piece. So not only do I have two people, I'm also forcing them along with my branch managers to get out into the communities. Not forcing, that was a bad word to use, but like I'm pushing them to get out into the communities to learn from our communities so that we can supply them with the tools that they want. That's the other thing. So we're kind of pivoting a little bit, right? We've all changed. We've learned to pivot since COVID came along, and I hate bringing up COVID, but I'm going to tell you that it still today affects a lot of the things that we do. So definitely has changed us into more of a digital platform, but at the end of the day, there's still a human element there.
Yeah, I 100% couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, speaking to someone that, working fully remote and stuff, we actually had an offsite last week, and I can't tell you how amazing it was just to like be with people that you see on a little box every day on your laptop, right? But just that it goes a long way, and I'm with you 100%. I have a question for you. You kind of mentioning digital, it sparked something, and it's something that I'm very curious, just holistically within the finance space, is You know, there is compliance. It exists. It is a regulated industry, right? Has there been like a challenge or difficulties with kind of moving more digitally or anything in that regards that kind of, I'm kind of curious of what challenges occur or have occurred.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely regulation. There's always, so if we're putting, whether we're setting up applications or on an online platform or whatever, we still have to have follow all of those rules. So we got to make sure that the member is aware of what they're actually committing to when they're doing those things. Every time we send out advertising, we got to have a disclaimer on the bottom. So like learning all of that stuff is crazy. So I worked a lot in customs and like in food my past, and there's regulations in every market that you go into. But I will tell you that the regulation here is much deeper. There's just so many things that you have to like account for, and how you market to somebody and where you can market to somebody and if you can market to that area or all of those things. So I
Mhm.
would definitely tell you that we work hand in hand with compliance, and we have a love-hate relationship, right? With compliance, because true to a marketer's core, we want to go out and do something pretty crazy to make a difference and like really go after something like that.
A big muscle, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's something edgy, and there's a lot of times that my edgy gets a little backed off, and we have to we have to make some changes. So we pivot a lot in the marketing, but especially in the digital market. Anything that we're sending out to our members, we want to make sure it's good content, that they want to have it and all of that, and that we're following all the rules along the way. So we definitely go through a very thorough process to ensure that we're following all the guidance and the rules by the NCUA,
Yeah.
as we move along.
But for a reason. They're
For
there for a reason too, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a safety net. Like, I mean, I always think of it, and anytime that we have any questions or pushback or anything like that, I'm like, okay, but would you want your grandma to receive this and not know? Right? I always use that. They hear me say that so many times because I'm like, no matter what situation is it, would you be okay with it if it was your grandma that I was sending it to, or that I was marketing to, or that I was taking care of in my branches, or
Mm.
whichever? Would you be okay with those things? And I think if we can ever say, well, maybe compliance is right,
Yeah.
we probably should back off.
I mean, that's it. I think that's a good. I always call them kind of like a pulse check to kind of run things back a little bit and bring in a fresh perspective. But also in conjunction, this goes perfectly with staying aligned. And I'm also curious because this is something that doesn't. I don't see it going away. And it's very much in the marketing and content landscape is AI. I'm kind of curious of what you're seeing, any trends, and anything within that realm right now in the financial space, or are we still very cautious? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of caution. And I mean, I'm gonna speak with two hats here, because my my marketing side is like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get AI and to do all the things and continue to kind of go down that path. Not from a standpoint of like replacing any of the tax, like any of the things that we do, but from a standpoint of help me be more efficient, help me learn faster, help me, because it can like look at all the information at a glance that would take me months to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so from a marketing standpoint, I'm like, oh yes, let's run, right? On a operations standpoint and compliance, like this is where I kind of marry with that compliance team, where I'm like, let's make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, because this AI thing is phenomenal and it can
Mhm.
help us tremendously. I truly believe that, though I am super excited about it, and I see a lot of like cautionary stuff too that we got to just pay attention to and make sure that we're keeping our pulse on it. Back to your
I,
comment there.
yeah. I love that you said there's like two hats to it. I think there has to be because it's, anything new, I'm very much like, I want to know about it. Especially, I think that's just a marketer in general. You're like, I want to, this is a potential tool. But I also see like, you know, you can't be too dependent or you can't lean too heavily at the end of the day because I'll be a content nerd. You still need humans. Otherwise, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't adhere. Even with the best prompting, you're still going to need someone to come in and help you out. You're going to need a human touch at the end of the day. Yeah.
100%. There's always guardrails that have to be put up and all of that, and it still doesn't get you to there. There's still that human touch. Though I see it as a huge opportunity for us, we'll never lose that piece of it. I think my team will just gain more skill set than they already have, which is exciting for them as well because they're going to be able to do some of the things that right now I'm like, no, hang on, we can't do that yet. Because we have more time to get there, you know? So I'm super excited when I look at it from like a team standpoint. I look at all the opportunity that it would bring to get us there. Okay. But then I put my other hat back on, like I said, and it's like, okay, pump the brakes. This is great. Automation is awesome. However, like, let's make sure we're dotting our I's, crossing our T's, making sure that it's what we really want. You know, I read an article about like the hallucinations and stuff like that we saw a lot earlier. I think they've gotten a lot better. Not that that's gone completely away. I think that falls on you as an organization to make sure that you're training it the right way to make sure that you're avoiding those things too. I think there's a responsibility. Anytime you get a new technology, there's a responsibility that you have to own that we're going to handle this the way that we should handle it and that we handle everything else. And we're
Yeah.
not going to be crazy with it, you know?
Absolutely. I feel like it is an industry that should be, a little bit more cautious as opposed to other industries, but everyone should be cautious to some extent. Like, right, there's not. Otherwise, what are we doing? Kind of comes back to that. I'd also, I guess, similar, but kind of switching gears, I'd love to hear if there's anything that you're kind of really excited about, your team's working on, a recent campaign that y'all are really, or project that y'all are really focused on, proud of, why? I'd love to kind of hear what's going on there.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. Like I said, we had our marketing team. We were able to expand it by one, so now we have two. That's huge, and it sounds crazy, but the reason that it's so amazing is because it gives us the ability to do a better job marketing to our members, and it also means when I can hire another one, it means that we're growing in the right direction. So that's super exciting. So I'm so excited about just seeing where we'll be a year from now. We're putting a lot of stuff into play. I've got my girls working on the website. We're working on some of the digital experience. We're working on a lot of those flow charts and journeys and all that kind of, personas, however you want to like lay it out. But I mean, all of that stuff is going through our heads constantly. And then I'm excited to see my team on the other side kind of step into those roles and take what we're telling them and run with it.
Yeah.
Because right, it's two components. Marketing can drive, but operation has to deliver. So definitely excited about that. We're working on lots of campaigns. I've got the ladies busy doing all kinds of things back there, looking at any way that we can help a member. So whether you're car loans, whether you're doing, summer fun loans, right? We all got to have a little fun. So if that's the thing, we're going after all that kind of stuff just to kind of keep it fresh.
Yeah. And I love kind of how you were the feeding and the feedback from operations, and you really sitting in the middle, right? And kind of navigating both, which is, I feel like, a very unique perspective, and not every company, has that, right? Where you kind of have the marketing and experience go hand in hand, but sometimes they're separated, right?
Yeah.
Where they really are one and the same to various degrees. So I think that's kind of cool, especially in the unique setting of a credit union too.
Yeah, I will tell you that like it's quite it is play on words here, but quite the experience to be able to sit in the middle of that and
I love
kind
a
of,
play on words. That was
yeah.
good.
To see it, right? To kind
Yeah.
of just see both teams excel. But it definitely is a full circle thing, and that's definitely how we'll see success in the future for sure.
Uh, you know, I know you have quite the depth of experience in regards to sales, marketing, and business development, and the customer experience holistically. Where have you been previously, and what brought you to the financial space?
in every career that I've been in, it's always been about the people and how to get to the next level. That is something that definitely fuels me. I love a challenge. So as I look at my career path, yeah, I was selling food early in my career, switched over to selling food to animals. And I thought, you know what, maybe we'll mix in a dynamic and do that internationally. Again, and what it really did is it allowed me to not only be able to handle and work with people of, it kind of gave me the experience to work with people that speak different languages, of different nationalities, and all that kind of stuff. And it was really exciting to be able to help people in all different levels, right? Because whether it affects your farm or whether it affects your table, they both kind of merge together. So I've always been on this greater mission of what's next for me, right? So when I was selling food back in the day, I was one of their top salespeople, won the awards, got there,
Yeah.
got to the top, and I found out that the top was a little bit lonely.
Yeah.
So I decided that the next thing for me was eventually to get to a spot where I could lead a team and make a difference, not only on the team, but on the people that we serve, that we work with. So moving into Relco, I was able to do that and kind of grow towards the same common goals instead of a goal just for me. Lots of travel, lots of really cool things that I learned in that job. It was very exciting. But there was
Yeah.
still one element that was missing, and that was how do I tie it back to the people that I see every day in the community? Because those are that really was a driver for me. I want to make a difference. I truly do. I get so excited about seeing people reach their goals and do all of that. And what better place to do it in a place that is so focused on community and how we touch and impact people's lives. I mean, it's crazy to say you make a difference every day, but we do. We really do, and I can see it all the time. So I'm very excited about that.
I'm curious with all your experience and everything that you've just encountered, is there any advice or like career lessons that I think we all have this, but that you wish you knew sooner?
Yeah, probably for myself is that I wish I would have dug my heels in sooner on the things that I was passionate about and
Mm,
grown in that because I might have gotten there a little quicker and been able to change more. I kind of early, I was like, I had set goals for me and I was like, I'm going to do this at least 3 times so that I know that I can teach it, right?
yeah,
And I think maybe I set myself up, I was a little bit harder on myself than I needed to be,
we all are. Yeah.
right? In some of that. So I feel like if I, maybe would have taken off the pressure a little bit earlier, I might have gotten here a little faster. But at the end of the day, like whether it was a success, whether it was a failure on anything that I've ever done in my career, the biggest thing that I always say is whether it's good or bad, always take the bad and learn from it. Learning from everything that I've gotten to experience and do in my career and learning how to get better and to
Yep.
change that. Yeah, that's probably, I can't say that I regret anything because I don't. I like every piece and every job made me who I am. The
Absolutely.
people, people that I've worked with along the way, gosh, I've been fortunate. So I'm fortunate here. It's just one of those things. So
Yeah, I definitely empathize with the kind of leaning into your passions, sooner. I won't go on a tailspin, but I was a journalist and I was a journalist fresh out of college in a very tough economy. We'll just put it that way. Um, so I was like, I have to make money a different way. And I kind of like put the passion aside, which was always storytelling and content. And I wish I would have gotten to it sooner, but I eventually landed into the marketing realm and focused in content. So what do you know? It happens, but
yeah,
I wish I would have been less scared or like leaned into it heavily. So yeah, I definitely feel that.
yeah.
One last question for you. I talked a lot, but more on the personal side, what are you working on right now? What are you doing outside of work? What are you passionate about?
Yeah, so I mentioned my daughters. I have 2 girls that are going to college. I've got a young boy still in school. And
Mm.
so what am I outside of the credit union? You can find me at any sporting event, I
Right?
think. Or in some gym near you, more than likely, because we're
Yeah.
traveling with club ball and doing all the things. I'm being a mom on the outside, and there's nothing that I love more than being that. for my children and setting an example and doing all that kind of stuff. So you can find me there. You can also find me listening to a good book. I'm all about
You're an audiobook person.
I'm an audiobook person. I like that way I can like multitask, I think is why I do it. But I, I'm an audiobook person and I love books on mindset and like how to get to the next level and all that stuff. Just learning. I'm constantly learning
I love that.
different things. So I always tell my staff here, I'm like, hang on, I'm gonna puke some useless information on you, but maybe you'll get a nugget out of there, right? That's something good. So yeah, so those are the kind of the things that I have going on. My daughter just recently graduated high school, so she'll be in college. My middle one, and so that'll be a different dynamic because we've been chasing girls, doing volleyball and basketball and all the things there, and now we're gonna go and my son will be the center, and so I'm sure he's super pumped as a seventh grader.
I'm
But
sure. I only have one as of right now, and I mean that's a lot of work, and it is kind of funny. It's like, what do you do? It's like I take her where she needs to go and do, it's like it kind of, but I love it. It's like being a mom is second nature. Like it is what I do outside of work, but it honestly is entertainment for me and it brings me joy too. So I'm right there with you.
yeah, there's definitely like I don't know, I'm sure something will fill my schedule, right? When the kids get older and all that kind of stuff. But I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of live that dream for a while.
Yeah. If with me, everyone's like, so when you get a free moment, what do you do? I'm like, chores, but if not, I would love a nap. Like, ideally, but that does not happen on the regular. So no.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'd like to tell you it gets better, but the challenges just change.
oh yeah,
They
they
just
just
start
evolve.
chasing.
They're
Yeah.
just evolving, and that's fine. But yeah. Well, thank you so much, Angie. I know we went a little over. I apologize, but thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and just your insights. It has been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been a treat for sure.
If you want to see more of the work Angie and her incredible team are doing, check out Leading Edge Credit Union on LinkedIn or follow along at Leading Edge CU, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. And keep listening. We've got more amazing guests coming your way, like the director of content at Rebrandly, the head of AI at a leading digital marketing agency, and creative leaders from Fiverr and beyond. Subscribe so you don't miss a beat, and we'll see you on the next mic.